All right, Ryan, thanks for doing this podcast with me today again. This is what we're calling bonus episode 3, Books That Inspire. So last week I visited with Ryan. I was like, I want to do a podcast on some books that I enjoyed reading when I was a little bit younger. And so I want to start off with a quote. Something I came up with was about my life a little bit, but I said one day, I said, exercise gave me confidence and reading changed my life. And the reason I said that is because when I left Schulenburg back in 2000, when I graduated high school, it's kind of it's a really weird part of your life, right?
Yeah.
You're not sure what you want to do, and moved to Austin. I always knew I wanted to get in real estate somehow. I knew that real estate was something that I wanted to do, but I was, working at like Frank Supply in Austin, and I was going to ACC college, and I really couldn't find a path in life. It was just kind of lost, just kind of floating with the wind. I was a feather in the wind, basically, no direction. But one day I came to the apartment and I decided to go for a run. And then I started to go for another run for that. And so instead of like not doing anything after work or after school, I would go exercise, and I joined a gym and all this too. But what I found through exercise, it gave me confidence. I liked who I was better than the lazy guy, right? Mm-hmm. And so started exercising. And then I never really liked to read. But when I was in college, before I graduated, Kenny Bigham, who's an attorney here in town, recommended Rich Dad Poor Dad to me. And so I wouldn't say it was my junior year in college, I read that book. Mm. And Ryan, I can't tell you how excited I was when I was in college. I was like, I can't wait to get my first job, real job, get in the real world. I'm gonna buy me a boat. Couldn't wait to buy a boat. I mean, that's what 20-year-olds and 21-year-olds think about, right?
Yeah.
Well, when I read that book, it changed my outlook on that. I was like, I don't want the boat no more. Mm. So let's kind of dive into Rich Dad Poor Dad. A guy named Robert Kiyosaki wrote it. He wrote it back in 1990 something. I'm gonna tell you Robert's story first, though.
Yeah.
He wrote this book and nobody wanted it because he's kind of down on the 401ks. He's down on IRAs. He's down on the financial banking system and way the fractional reserve banking system works, because it really is, it makes the banks rich, but it doesn't make people wealthy because of you're paying interest and all this. But he talks about good debt and bad debt. But Robert's story is the reason he had to self-publish this book, because nobody would publish it, because financial institutions, all this, that he's not pushing their agenda, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, he wrote the book, and it's a really good book, and we'll get into assets and liabilities. We'll talk about the different types of income and all this. But he wrote to Oprah, and he said, I need to get on Oprah's show. And so he went on a trip. I could be getting this wrong. Don't let facts get in the way of a good story, folks. But he went on a trip to Australia, I believe. And Oprah would never get him on his show. He couldn't get, but she had a cancellation, and he's on this camping trip, some sort of thing, where he's gone for like 3 weeks. Well, his wife's name's Kim, and Kim calls him, and she says, Robert, Oprah had a cancellation, and she needs you on the show in 2 days. And he's like, we're canceling the trip. So he got back, got on a plane, went to Oprah, talked about the book, and she said, congratulations, I just sold you 2 million copies by being on that show. And so he calculated and said, he's like, okay, if I make $5 a copy, 2 million copies, I just made, $4 million bucks forever, Anyways, It's not the exact story, but you get the point.
Yeah.
And so that's how the book really took off, was by being on the Oprah show, and he got on there eventually, and that's how people found out about it. So it's a really good book if you want to learn about how the financial world really, really works. And the first thing that I learned about the book was the difference between assets and liabilities. Mm-hmm. A lot of times when you go to a bank, they want you to list out your assets, right?
Yeah.
So you list out your cars, list out your house, you list out all those things. Well, in the book, he debunks that, and he says those are not assets, those are liabilities by his definition of an asset. So Robert's definition is very, very simple. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. So when you buy a house, does it put money in your pocket?
Not right away.
No. It takes money out of your pocket on a monthly basis. Either you're paying a mortgage, you got taxes, you got insurance, so you got maintenance, so it's taking money out of your pocket. Now, the way he says it is, if you buy a house, You put a tenant in it, they pay your mortgage, and it covers your taxes, insurance, all that, and it makes you a little bit of money at the end of the day. Then that's an asset because now that building, that house is making you money. Whereas before it was taking money out of your pocket. So
your tenant becomes your asset.
Exactly. So when you're about to buy something, is it going to put money in my pocket? If the answer is no, it's what you call a liability because it's taking money out of your pocket. And so it's a very simple definition to help you make good financial decisions. Nice. That's the definition of an asset. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket.
It's important. It's a lot different than what I think it is, or like normally what you're culturally or societally what we think of as an asset. Is really something that does probably cost you money every month. Yeah, and he really talks about too is in the book he talks about not working for money. He says money's a drug. A lot of people, the first things we do is we're taught to go to school, get good grades, so you can get a good paying job, a good, safe, secure job. We talks about jobs aren't safe and secure anymore. And so he talks about minding your own business. He's like, you need to mind your own business. And so he talks a lot about not working for money, but working to learn. Okay. So his first job was he went and got a job at Xerox Corporation because he wanted to learn how to sell. He said, if you can sell, you can own a business because a business has to drive revenue, right? So he learned, he didn't go work for Xerox for the paycheck. He went to work for Xerox because they had, at that time, they had one of the best sales mentorship programs and all this. And so he went there to learn how to sell. And so he talks about working to learn, not working for money. And so that was good too. I was talking to a gentleman last week about, he was offered to run a pretty big outfit. He was gonna get paid $400,000 a year. He turned it down. He's like, sounds all great, but then I'm gonna be tied to that. And then it's not something I really want to do. And all of a sudden you're addicted to that drug, to that money. You're not doing what you really, really want to do in life. True.
So
that's powerful.
Yeah. So not working for money, but working for something that you're really inspired to. He always says that we're all born geniuses and our job is to find that genius. And a lot of times through life, that genius is taken away either from our parents or whatever the world's trying to teach us, right? We all have a genius inside of us and we should all find that genius and put it to work. So very, very powerful, right?
Yeah. Intriguing guy.
Yeah.
And then, so could you explain, I guess, the rich dad and the poor dad?
Yeah. So he had two dads. He had two dads. He had a rich dad and a poor dad. His poor dad was a professor, I believe at the University of somewhere in Hawaii. I don't know what university it was, but
that was his biological.
His biological father, yeah. So what his rich dad thought was risky, his poor dad thought was safe, and so getting a good job he thought was his poor dad thought that was a safe thing to do, and his rich dad said that wasn't safe because there's no loyalty really in this world anymore. You're seeing less and less loyalty, not only from the employee side, but from the employer side. Things change and get so obsolete so quick. So what you thought was secure is no longer secure. It's getting taken over by whatever as the world evolves and changes so quickly. Now you have AI and all this too, which is probably getting worse. But his rich dad told him to mind his own business. And so he did some things. He did some like surfer wallets and stuff, started minding his business. And he did really well with that. And then he didn't like the fact that it was in sweatshops, so he quit doing that. But at the end of the day, he started investing in real estate. And he talks a lot about real estate and the power of real estate. And he goes into a tax situation, which is he talks about the three types of income. He talks about there's earned income like you and I do. I work for commission, right, to sell property and all this. That's earned income. It's taxed at the highest rate. You have portfolio income, which is stocks, bonds, all this, right? And then that's taxed at the second highest rate. So that's like your Warren Buffett income. Gotcha. Okay. And then you have passive income, which is real estate income. That's from owning buildings and all this. And it's the tax at the lowest rate because you have depreciation and all this, the tax advantages of it. And so he invests heavily in real estate because he says you control it too. Whereas like when you invest in the stock market, you're depending on that CEO, you're depending on that board to make good decisions. But when you buy real estate, you can hire a property manager and all this, but you can fire that property manager. You have control over that asset. Whereas stocks, bonds, you don't really have control of who's making those decisions and that they're making good decisions with your money. Gotcha. He also talks about, the stock market gets 90% of the returns, whereas you get 10% of the returns. Whereas in real estate, you're 100%, that's yours. And so very, very powerful concept there.
I remember when Mitch Romney and Donald Trump were debating when they were running for president at that time, and they're debunking why, Romney had to pay this high tax, which wasn't really high, but it was around 20%, and Trump was like less than 0% or whatever. And so they were trying to debunk that, and it was because he's passive income. He wasn't portfolio income like Romney was.
Gotcha.
And so it wasn't his fault that he didn't pay taxes. It was Romney's fault that he invested in portfolio income.
Yeah.
So
missing out.
Yeah.
Huh.
So anyways, that's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There's he has really good illustrations in there too. Mm-hmm. Another good thing that he says is that the rich don't work for money. They work to acquire assets. Mm-hmm. And so he shows you what a balance sheet looks like. He shows you what an income statement looks like. So you can see how the money flows from income through expenses, and then you have what's left over, right? He says income minus expenses, that's how the poor live. Mm-hmm. So they're earning up here up top, and then they're paying all their bills, and they get the crumbs that are left over, right? Whereas the rich, they convert their hard-earned income as quickly as possible to passive income or portfolio income, and then they're taking that money that they've earned and they're putting in their asset column by buying assets, things that put money in your pocket. So your asset column grows, and then instead of money coming down through the top, it's coming from the bottom from your asset column going to the top, and it's feeding through this, right?
Yeah.
And so if you look at that diagram, you get an aha moment all of a sudden of, okay, how do I work for assets? How do I buy assets? What are assets? It's things that put money in your pocket. And the more of those things that you can put on your asset column on your balance sheet, the better off you're going to be in the long run. So
nice. Is there so that's one aha moment. Is there something that you maybe wish that you knew before you read the book, or like was there like
the book will make you angry?
Okay.
It will make you angry. It'll make you upset at the government. It'll make you upset. The biggest thing that he talks about is August 15th, 1971, Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard. Mm-hmm. It was the Bretton Woods Agreement. And as Rich Dad went, he said the world changed forever at that point. And that's when the credit cards were invented. And if you look at the prices of assets, of real estate and all that, you'll notice that it was very nominal. And then once that Bretton Woods Agreement went away, and we went on this fractional reserve system, you just see prices go up. And that's why you have to convert money into assets as quick as possible. Money, you can't get wealthy saving money. It dilutes. You can't put it underneath your treasure chest of your bed or whatever. It loses its power. It's so sad that you and I go work, and anybody that works hard every day, and we earn $1, and it would be so awesome if that dollar would buy just as many goods and services tomorrow as it does today, but it doesn't. It loses its purchasing power.
Gotcha.
And so that's why it's so very, very important. That's why our middle class is getting killed, is because of that. The middle class doesn't work to acquire assets; they work for a paycheck, and that's why it's taking the brunt of it, of the inflation, and all this.
Yeah,
and that's the sad part of it.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah. He and so it kind of makes you upset about the system, but you can either beat them or join them, right?
Yeah.
So if you read the book, you learn what you need to do, and the brain is very, very powerful. And so he talks about working for knowledge and learning the system so you can beat the system.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know what you don't know, you get trapped in, and you can't get out of it. So.
Exciting book.
Did you learn? I gave you these books last week.
I know. I did. I read like the first half of Rich Dad Poor Dad and I skimmed the rest.
Did it make you upset?
Oh yeah. Makes you wish you could go back to being when I felt so jealous. He's like, I figured this out when I was 9. I was like, 9?
Right.
What?
Well, that's another thing. His poor dad got really mad at him because his rich dad made him work. It was a grocery store, right? Was it
like a corner store.
So him and his buddy, I forget his buddy's name, but his best friend, his friend's, the rich dad was his best friend's real dad, and he made them work for no money at the store, right?
Yeah.
And he was teaching them, don't work for money, work to learn. And so he was teaching them the system and how they could learn, and that's how they could beat it and all that.
His friend's dad was waiting for him to quit, and then that was his first lesson, was that like, you're going to grind unless you figure out how to make money, how the rich people make money.
Yeah.
And so it was a good book. I got to finish it, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I think it was, I don't know if it was Karate Kid. Remember when he was wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off? Yeah. And so
I think he talks about that in that book somewhere, but you know, it's about learning and repetitively just keep learning so you can grow and get better at what you're trying to master.
Yeah.
And making mistakes and learning from them.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Yeah.
And then, so we got Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Were you able, now we have, moving on to the 7 Habits
of Highly Effective
Did
People.
you read this one after Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Yeah, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was first. And a good friend of mine, my wife's first cousin, Jeff Wilde, bought me that book when I just got married to Kimberly, my wife. And I read that book on my honeymoon. And so it talks about private victory versus public victory.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to win the private victory first, which is being proactive, seeking first to understand and to be understood. What was the third one? I forget. But is it on my notes?
First things first.
First things. Oh yeah, first things first. I teach my kids this all the time. It's first things first. You got to do first things first before you can have fun.
Yeah.
Get the hard stuff out of the way. You know, don't put off till tomorrow what could be done today.
Yeah.
And so what are first things first? You know, and real estate and business, it's making your calls, right? I have to, like this morning I worked on business development and those are first things first. Mm-hmm. And so I, this morning after I got done with I try to put God first every morning. And after I put him first, then I'll work on business development. And I made some really good calls this morning. I was really proud of myself because I put first things first, and those will turn into opportunities later. But if I don't do those things, my business will suffer.
Yeah. And then it's thinking win-win. So
it's so great in real estate, right?
I was about to say,
so you know, when you there's a course called Certified Negotiation Expert. And what you learn through thinking win-win is when it's a win-lose situation, the person losing doesn't want to do the deal. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of attorneys are like this a lot of times. They want the other party to lose so bad, right? But if you want to have a successful negotiation, everybody needs to feel like they're winning somehow. Mm-hmm. You got to have a give and take, but making sure that everybody wins so the deal can get done. Because when the other party's losing, nothing's going to happen. You're not going to get to the end goal, right? Mm-hmm. And so thinking win-win is very, very important everywhere, I believe. Everybody gets what they want somehow.
Yeah.
So they're going to be compromised, obviously.
Yeah.
But everybody's going to get what they want in a win-win situation.
Yeah. Compromise with some concessions.
Yeah. Sometimes for sure. Yeah. And then, you know, but it's thinking win-win I think it's everywhere. You want to really make sure that everybody's getting something out of the deal that they're looking for. Yeah.
It's better if you're trying to build community, or especially in real estate, if you're doing doing deals for your town.
Yeah.
You know, you want to make sure everyone wins.
There's just so many people out there that feels like the other party has to lose, and that's not true. Yeah. E-commerce will definitely slow down. So yeah.
Nice. And then the next one was seek first to understand before seeking to be understood.
Absolutely. If you've been married, you know. Always have to understand the other person first. Mm-hmm. And they talk about a paradigm shift in there too. You know, we only see what's through our eyes, and it's very difficult sometimes to see what other people are seeing through their eyes. And so you have to really take your time and try to understand that person and see through their eyes so you can understand where they're coming from. And I, you know, not to get political, but there's so many on the left and right that only see their way, and it creates this division in our world, and I don't like it. Mm-hmm. I'm always try to live on the edge of the coin and see both ways.
Yeah.
You know, because if you can see both sides, if you seek to understand and you really dive in to ask those questions, and then you can counteract and be, you know, I can see how you're seeing that way. And this is just how I've always thought about it though, you know, but the fact that you took the time to understand the other person, they're going to take the time to understand you. But if you go in there blazing with guns, you're an idiot. Yeah. You don't know what you're talking about. They're not going to understand you, you know?
Unfortunately, all too common these days, but
yeah.
But also that's important. It kind of like all these apply to the steps before, the habits before them. Because to win, if you're thinking win-win, the only way to get there is to understand where they're coming from. So that way you can approach them with a deal that it satisfies everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 My wife reminds me of that because I read this book and
if I don't seek to first understand, she will remind me, that's one of the habits you read. And I'm like, you're right.
Is that synergize? No, does that have to do with synergizing?
Yeah.
That was the next one it talked about a little bit. That one was, could you go into, do you remember that?
Yeah, synergy?
Yeah, synergy.
Synergy is 1 + 1 = 7.
Okay.
Yeah. Synergy is when you do these things, that's where I feel like the wax on, wax off, it's where compounding happens.
Okay.
And synergy happens with people. When you have people in an office, you put 5 people on your team, it's not 5 people, it's actually probably produces 10 or 25. You put synergy together and all of a sudden it multiplies.
Yeah.
It's not even adding, it's multiplication.
Okay.
Of the outcome of synergy.
Exponential
for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, you can't do it all on your own. You have to have people, and that's synergy for sure.
Yeah. And then the last one it always talked about was like sharpening the saw. So always revisiting all these habits and self-reflection and stuff like that. That's some
going back to it. Yeah, very important to continue to sharpening the saw. It also talks about the quote's been taken. I think President Lincoln maybe was the first one that said it. But if you're going to give me 7 hours to chop down a tree, the first six I'm sharpening the saw.
Yeah.
And so always sharpening the saw, because if you just start hacking at that tree with a dull blade, you could be there forever. And so when I'm selling houses or ranches and it needs work, I always tell the people, my clients, I'm like, there's a quote out there. And it says, if you got 7 hours to cut down a tree, the first 6 we're sharpening saw. So let's start packing. Let's start getting things ready. So when the sale does happen, when we do get that contract, a lot of the work's already been done and you're not going to be overwhelmed with all this.
Yep.
You'll have a lot of it taken care of already. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
Very good. Were there any aha moments from this book that stood out to you whenever you read it on your honeymoon?
I think just, the paradigm shift, really seeing what other people see. In the book, it shows you a picture and it shows what you see. Then it says, well, do you see this too? And you're like, oh, wow, I didn't see that in that picture.
Yeah.
And so it shows you in real life that, oh, wow, okay. There are different eyes out there and different eyes see different things. And so it's very important to try to understand what other people are saying too.
Yeah, no, that's important.
And then just, just the simple habits of being proactive. And there's also the 7 habits of highly effective teens. I've tried to get my kids to read it. I don't think I've been successful with that, but I do talk about the habits to them, trying to make them aware of them. And over time, I think it'll stick maybe.
Yeah.
As they get older. Dad said that all the time.
They'll remember it. Yeah. Eventually it will come to them.
Yeah.
I think I read that one in high school or in middle school. They let us all read it.
7 habits of highly effective teens. Yeah.
Whether or not I applied them all, that's to be debated. But
I mean, the thing is, he wrote a book on just first things first. There's a whole book just on that habit. Yeah. And so each habit they're universal. They don't change. The world may change, but those habits are universal principles that we can apply for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Which makes it very, very powerful too, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Basic concepts, but a lot of in-depth, like, not allegories, but anecdotes.
Yeah.
That you can apply and just kind of see how those habits, you can form them in your life and the results you might see.
For sure.
Yeah. Good books. How do you, I guess, take these books now and then like, how do you apply them to like your daily life? Is there something that like you can kind of trace, or is it just kind of background information you take with you?
Yeah. So, we started the Entre podcast, right? In the Entre Real Estate. And the whole point of Entre Real Estate was being an entrepreneur. It was minding your own business. So when you get in real estate, realtors, the reason they do it is because they want to mind their own business and they want to have this thing, what we call freedom. But freedom, being free, isn't do what you want every day. Freedom is being disciplined, just no different than what they call the disciple of Christ, right? You're a disciple, and to be a disciple of Christ, you have to be disciplined in that. And that's where ultimate freedom comes from, is being a disciple, being disciplined. And so when you're in real estate, you do have to be disciplined. And to be a follower of Christ, you do have to be disciplined. And that's where the freedom comes from. And so realtors get into real estate to be free, but at the same time, a lot of times they don't realize, I have to be disciplined. I don't have a boss telling me what to do today.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I show up? What do I do? I don't know what to do. It's because it's your own business. You're minding your own business. And so, applying the 7 habits can help you become disciplined. And so with the Entre podcast and all this, the whole point of it was it's entrepreneurial. Entre stands for entrepreneurial. In real estate, we're in real estate, so entrepreneur, real estate. And it's all about what I believe is that real estate's the best investment of the world. And the goal of a business is to buy real estate. And because I like passive income, Rich Dad, Poor Dad in that book taught us that passive income is there's more millionaires made off of real estate than any other investment. And it's always going to be, you can't take it, you can't steal it. It's here, right? And so that's where I kind of took that book and built my business around it. Mm-hmm. And so I started my real estate company back when my first daughter was born, Ava, in 2008. Started Bubella and Associates Inc. And wanted to build something around that, and started selling real estate. And then I wanted to buy assets. And so over time, I've bought and sold different things. I've continued to build out a portfolio of stuff, of assets that are supposed to put money in my pocket. They don't always put money in my pocket. Sometimes they're dead dog losers. But that was this year's mantra was, I'm not going to let my ego get in the way of my cash flow. So things that have not made me money, I've tried to get off my balance sheet, because they're not shooting income to the top. It's draining it to the bottom. And so trying to get rid of those things that don't make us money. And so realizing what the true definition of an asset is. Asset puts money in your pocket. Don't let your ego get in the way of something that you like or love, but it's not doing you any favors, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what Rich Dad Poor Dad taught me. And so I've tried to continually apply that concept of, is it putting money in my pocket? And if it's not, am I enjoying it? There's some things you can enjoy, but if it's not fruitful in your life, then you probably need to get rid of it. I had a storage unit. We moved here in 2015 and I have a storage unit of stuff for 10 years. Yeah. And it's not serving me. I don't know what's in that storage unit, but I got the bill for $1,080 the other day for the year.
Oh no.
And I said, I'm getting rid of this stuff. So I called a friend of mine, Teresa, and I said, Teresa, I want it gone. I don't care what you do. I don't even want to take my wife over there because then she'll want to but she doesn't even know it's there anymore. She's forgotten about it, but we want it gone. Yeah. So get rid, and it's gone. Nice. Took a phone call, and in 2 days that stuff was gone. And God bless America and Teresa. It was a liability. I didn't need the stuff, and so got rid of it. So
simple things.
Yeah.
Any books you're reading right now that you?
Yeah, I'm reading Giftology. It's actually there's a second book off Giftology. It's Beyond Giftology, I believe it's called. And then I'm reading about activators. And so the activator book is a lot about firms. Like you have attorneys, you have professionals like your surveyors, you could have engineers, all this. But people that are professionals, like real estate professionals, insurance professionals, the most successful ones are rainmakers. They're always out driving business. They're always out growing their business development and doing things that are partnerships, right? And so it's in the Giftology book. It says relationships can do what marketing can't do. And so focusing on those relationships, making powerful partnerships with people, friendships, and creating this, because a high net worth individual is not going to go click on an ad and buy whatever you're trying to sell. Mm-hmm. What they're going to do is they're going to call one of their other friends and say, hey, who do you recommend for real estate services? I got a 600-acre ranch I want to sell. And they're not going to go search the internet for somebody. They're going to find a highly referable broker to help them. And so relationships can do what marketing can't do. Mm-hmm. And talks about marketing today. There's so much noise. And so marketers will not tell you that it can't do what relationships can do because they want to sell you marketing. Mm-hmm. But marketing today is like being a tenant farmer back in the day. you're not getting the full return that relationships can do. And so it's very powerful, and you realize, and supposedly too, the numbers come down. It used to be over 200 something, but supposedly it's a maximum. We all max out about 150 good relationships, and it's focusing on those 150 good relationships where you're getting an ROR, return on relationship. You have ROI in the investment world, but in the relationship world, you have an ROR. So making sure that you're focused on the relationships where you are getting an ROR, a return on that relationship. And so, and at the same time, not only are those relationships feeding you, but you're feeding them. It talks about too. So it's a win-win for everybody. And so it talks about the most successful firms are focused on business development at all times. They're making that a part of their day. A lot of people don't focus on business development. They're focused on their craft, I guess. You know, when you're going to get business, right? So you also got to do the work, but more people are focused on doing the work instead of focused on the relationship. Yeah. And so you really need to take time to focus on those relationships at the same time while you're focusing on the work too. And the people that are activists in that business development are the most successful. So you need to make sure you spend part of your day in that and making it a first things first habit. Yeah. So
nice.
Yeah.
Very good. That reminds me of like the video we did with the triangle of trust kind of.
Yeah. The referability. Yeah.
Yep. You have to have those.
It all kind of, you read these books and there's always a one nugget that's always the biggest nugget out of every book. And so you can usually dive in and find out what that book's really trying to tell you, and just taking that and applying it. Yeah. You know, so absolutely.
Very good. Well, thank you for joining us on Entre's Book Club. No, I mean, we could start it. I know you read a lot and always giving me books. So I appreciate that.
And if I could, any advice that I want to give people is that I didn't like to read when I was a kid. I hated it, but it's something that I continue to. I always want to be a lifelong learner. When I'm gone from this world, I want people to say, you know, that guy read and kept learning his whole life, never stop. So if I'm 90 or 80, I want to continue to learn. I don't want to fall behind. And I think, and I really do believe that exercise gave me confidence, and reading changed my life. And, you know, we only know what we know. And what's so crazy is we have podcasts these days. We have all this information out there. And it's so accessible. You know, where I think, 50 years ago it wasn't accessible to everybody. Only the wealthy had the knowledge of it or had access to it. Now everybody has access to it. We really don't have an excuse anymore, you know? So if you want to learn, go find out what you need to learn and then go apply that. So, yeah.
Good message, I think.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
And so be sure to follow us everywhere. Entre.real estate. Be sure to subscribe online at YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Find us on Facebook and Instagram. We should have a website coming up soon, and with some merch.
Yeah, some
swag. And on there, I think we'll make a little book club for Entre and all our followers, because I think it's important. We're all about education. I think this was a fun podcast to do. I think hopefully we can do another one after we read some more books.
For sure.
I'm inspired to read more. I bought another book. I want to give it to you after I'm done with rereading it. Yeah. That's my second time. But yeah, so thanks, Chip.
Yeah. And one more thing. Yeah. When you read these books and you do Audible too, I usually get the paper and the Audible because you'll hear something that you didn't read sometimes.
True.
So I try to do both too sometimes.
Yeah. And also like the Earn It book, the marketing book that you gave me. I've seen the physical and the audio, and he really sells it. Like, it's great marketing book. I mean, the dude, I'd listen to him, I guess. Yeah. If you want to learn marketing, because the way he talks on it, it's engaging, and it kind of pushes through a lot more points, I think, that I would get lost if I was reading it just text on paper. So that's a good point, especially if everyone's busy working. So pop in the earbuds and.
Yeah, you can have salad or you can have dessert in your ears, right? And so salad is listening to a book, to a podcast, and dessert's listening to music. So make sure you get some salad in there in those ears.
Good point.
Thank y'all for listening. Thank you, Ryan, for putting this together today.
Of course, this is a blast. Thank you, Chip.